That's one of the things that bothers me. I hear it every day. I hear it on the media. I hear it from my opponents. Bernie is an extremist. Bernie is too radical. Okay, let's deal with it. Is raising a starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, which has not been raised in 10 years, to $15 an hour, a living wage, a radical idea? It's making public colleges and universities tuition-free so that all of our people have the opportunity to get a higher education in a competitive global economy. Is that a radical idea? Two things. They will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs. For senior citizens, it will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't.
Second of all.
You don't know that,
Second
Bernie.
of all.
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know it. I wrote the damn bill. And second of all.
Senator Bernie Sanders has been one of the loudest voices on this issue. At 82 years old, he manages to be the voice of young liberals and many others.
People are dying because they can't afford health care. And you got 3 people who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Nobody will ever convince me that that is morally or economically acceptable. It is not anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas to point out that in a little over 6 months, your extremist government has killed 34,000 Palestinians and wounded more than 78,000, 70% of whom are women and children.
Bernie Sanders is an American politician and activist. He is often seen as a leader of the U.S. progressive movement. Sanders is known for his democratic socialist views and his advocacy for progressive policies. He was born to a middle-class Jewish family in 1941. While his mother was born and raised in New York City, his father was a Polish Jew whose entire family was wiped out by the Holocaust. This loss is what inspired Bernie to try and make a positive change in the world. He also has an older brother, Larry Sanders, who is a British politician and has served as spokesman for the Green Party of England and Wales. In high school, Bernie was captain of the track team. In the fall of 1958, his friend Myron Kalin, who was voted most popular boy in the school yearbook, informed Bernie about the hardships faced by about 200,000 orphans of the Korean War, most of whom were fathered and abandoned by U.S. soldiers. Bernie was so moved by what he heard that he decided to run for class president and surprised everyone by centering his campaign around providing aid for the Korean War orphans. It was so far out in terms of what we usually heard, said Bernie's classmate, Lou Howard, that it went over students' heads, and I knew he wouldn't get elected. Lou was right. Bernie ultimately lost the election, coming in at 3rd place. The winner was a popular singer with the school's musical production group. Even though he lost, Bernie still took an active role on the school's fundraising and eventually fulfilled his campaign promise by organizing a basketball game fundraiser for the Korean War orphans. After graduating, he attended Boston College in 1960, which is where he met Eugene Debs, leader of the campus Socialist Club. Although Bernie wasn't active in the club, he recalls, "I was amazed because here, in front of me, were real-life socialists." Sadly, it was also the year that Bernie's mother had passed away. The following year, he transferred to the University of Chicago to study for a degree in political science. He later described the classes as boring and irrelevant, and stated that he learned much more from community activism than what he learned in class. He also became active in a few political groups, including the Young People's Socialist League, and became the chairman of the Congress of Racial Equality, which was very active in the civil rights movement. In his second year, of university. His father also died at the age of 57. In January 1962, he attended a rally with 32 other students to protest the university's policy of segregation in campus housing. At the protest, Sanders said, "We feel it is an intolerable situation when Negro and white students of the university cannot live together in university-owned apartments." They camped outside the university president's office for weeks, which led to the university ending the practice of racial segregation in the summer of 1963. Joan Mahoney, a member of the university's Congress of Racial Equality Club, described Sanders in a 2016 interview as a swell guy, a nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn, but he wasn't terribly charismatic.
And that just sums up what people are like now when it comes to...
One of his strengths, though, was his ability to work with a wide group of people, even those he didn't agree with. Bernie Sanders also once spent a full day putting up flyers that protested police brutality, only to notice later that the Chicago police had been following him and removed them all. He also attended the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. The same year, he was fined $25, which is about $250 today, for resisting arrest during a demonstration in Inglewood against segregation in Chicago's public schools. Apart from his civil rights activism in the 1960s and 70s, he also participated in numerous anti-war protests. When he was drafted to go to Vietnam, he applied for conscientious objector status. His application was ultimately denied, but the process took so long that by then, he was too old to be drafted anyway. Even though Bernie objected to the war on moral grounds, he did not hold it against those who fought in the war, and has fought staunchly for veterans' rights his whole career. And on top of that, he was also involved in organizing marches for workers' rights. After he graduated from university, he returned to New York, where he worked a number of different jobs, including a teacher, a psychiatric assistant, and a carpenter. In 1968, he moved to Stannard, Vermont, which was a small town consisting of only 88 residents at the time. It was there that he worked as a carpenter and a filmmaker. He made educational movies for schools. He also wrote articles for the Vermont Freeman newspaper. On November 8, 1980, Sanders announced his candidacy for the mayor of Birmingham position. Because Bernie was relatively unknown, he was not seen as a serious threat. The current mayor, Gordon Pickett, dismissed his efforts and didn't even campaign against him. He also went on record to say that if Bernie were elected, it would mean ruin for the city. But Bernie was supported by a wave of optimistic volunteers, university professors, a number of charities and social welfare organizations, and even the police union. When he ended up winning by 10 votes, the result shocked everyone, even Bernie himself. As a self-described socialist holding executive power in Vermont's largest city, Bernie immediately faced significant challenges and a campaign of obstruction aimed at undermining him. On his very first day, the FBI came asking about Bernie and his past connections to the Socialist Workers' Party. In his first 3 months alone, Sanders encountered resignations and an unprecedented campaign of obstruction in Burlington. By the end of his term, he was ticketed for parking in his own parking space and had his mail stolen by his own staff. Even Burlington's major newspaper wasn't optimistic about Bernie and viewed him with suspicion. A group of very powerful investors warned him not to be an obstruction, and allow construction projects to go ahead that had already been approved. They were swiftly disappointed when Sanders met with Vermont's lawmakers at the State House in Montpelier and chewed them out for neglecting the poor and serving the interests of big business and lobbyists. The newspaper even criticized Bernie and his team for not wearing formal clothing in their day-to-day operations. Bernie also hired Richard Sartell, a low-income housing advocate, paying him out of his own mayoral salary because the board wouldn't approve any of his nominations. Despite the obstacles, Bernie remained determined to make a positive impact in his community. As mayor, Bernie managed to balance the budget, ensuring financial stability and avoiding debt and other financial problems. His city attracted a minor league baseball team, providing entertainment for the city and increased local tourism. Burlington became the first city in the United States to fund community trust housing. This innovative approach involves the city investing in affordable housing that remains affordable over the long term, helping to ensure that lower-income residents have access to quality housing. Bernie Sanders also led a successful lawsuit against the local cable television company, which resulted in reduced cable rates for Burlington's residents, making cable television services more affordable for the community. As mayor, he focused on revitalizing the downtown area of Burlington, making improvements and enhancements to the city's core, which helped attract businesses, residents, and visitors, thus boosting the local economy. One of Bernie's major achievements was blocking plans to turn the industrial waterfront property into luxury condominiums, hotels, and offices. He argued that the city should prioritize public good over private profit, and that the waterfront should benefit the entire community rather than just a few wealthy developers. He successfully supported a plan that redeveloped the waterfront area into a district that benefited everyone, featuring affordable housing, public parks, and public spaces. He ran for and won 4 terms in office, but decided not to run for another term as mayor, and instead went on to lecture in political science at Harvard Kennedy School. When Sanders left office in 1989, Baricius, a member of the Burlington City Council, said that Bernie Sanders had changed the entire nature of politics in Burlington and also in the state of Vermont.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, let me tell you, it really has.
Nobody ever called him Mr. Mayor. He was always just plain Bernie. His followers soon became known as Sanderistas, and he became not just a socialist mayor, but a celebrity.
I mean, the city has certainly prospered under his reign. There's been so much vitality, people interested in politics that never were before, and, you know, he's just been very good for the community, I think.
But most Sanderistas think he won't be out of politics for long.
And I thank all of you very much for your support and for allowing me the opportunity to serve. Thank you very much.
In 1990, Bernie won the House election to become the congressman for the U.S. Senate for the state of Vermont. He ran as an independent, which was highly unusual, and still won 56% of the vote.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Is to thank the people of the state of Vermont for their tremendous vote of confidence in me. We did not expect to come out of it with a 17 or 18-point lead. We did not expect to win every county in the state except Bennington County, and town after town. So it was a tremendous victory.
He was also the first socialist elected to the House since 1948. Through the years, he was consistently re-elected by large margins, demonstrating the strong and ongoing support from his constituents. Sanders served as a U.S. representative until 2007, when he successfully ran for the U.S. Senate. His status as an independent helped him form coalitions across multiple party lines. He was a vocal critic of the chairman of the Federal Reserve and accused him of being out of touch and favoring large corporations. He has supported the Violence Against Women Act and a ban on assault weapons. Sanders consistently opposed the Patriot Act, which allows government to spy and collect data on its people.
And that is to make an important change to the USA Patriot Act so that the FBI is not given carte blanche to go into our libraries or our bookstores with no probable cause.
He also voted against the war on Iraq in 1991 and in 2002.
The question, Mr. Speaker, is not whether we like Saddam Hussein or not, whether a unilateral American invasion of Iraq will do more harm than good. Mr. Speaker, I do not know why the President feels, despite what our intelligence agencies are saying, that it is so important to pass a resolution and why it is necessary to go forward without the support of the United Nations, including those who are fighting side by side with us in the war on terrorism.
In 2014, he helped pass a bill to reform the Department of Veterans Affairs after a scandal exposed that care for war veterans was being delayed.
You don't turn your backs on people who put the uniform on in this country.
It is no secret, I think, that there are few public officials in Congress who are more outspoken than I am in opposition to war as an effective means of resolving international disputes. Having said that, it has always been my view that those men and women who have accepted the call of their government, who have put their lives and their futures on the line by going off to war, deserve the utmost respect from their government when they return home from those wars.
In 2017, he introduced the Medicare for All bill, advocating for a single-payer healthcare system.
Private insurance companies make huge profits. It is a complicated bureaucratic system where we spend a heck of a lot of money on administration rather than on health care. I live in Burlington, Vermont, 50 miles away from the Canadian border. They do it. Everybody has health care. You don't take out your wallet or your credit card when you go to the doctor or the hospital. They spend 1/2 as much per capita as we spend. So, Alicia, the question is, why hasn't it happened? And the answer is, we have not had the courage as a people to take on the greed and the corruption of the healthcare industry.
In 2017, Sanders introduced a bill to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Bernie had endorsed Obama for the presidency in 2008 and in 2012. When he decided to run for president in 2016, he was again considered a long shot, but he surprised everyone when he managed to win 23 primaries and secure 46% of pledged delegates.
That's right, feel the burn.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
His campaign resonated with many, highlighting issues like economic inequality and campaign finance reform. Most of Bernie Sanders' supporters were young folks who were fed up with the unfair treatment of working-class individuals and the unequal sharing of wealth in society. They were tired of politicians' dishonesty and how they exploited the less fortunate. His supporters aimed to create a better world for everyone. At one event in Portland, Maine, Bernie was shocked to see the line to see him looping around the Cross Insurance Arena. Sanders' popularity had clearly exceeded his own expectations. He recalled, "I was blown away. We were driving in. We saw these lines of people snaking down the sidewalk. I was like, Jesus, what is that? There's a ball game going on?"
I think there may be some symbolism here.
Bernie is described by everyone as authentic. One of Bernie's followers at the rally is quoted as saying, "Most candidates are fake and rehearsed, but what I saw a real person in Bernie." His campaign gained huge momentum. drawing in many young people who had never been interested in politics before. However, when the Democrats chose not to make him the presidential candidate, his supporters accused the party of favoritism. Taking it all in stride, Bernie urged his supporters not to give up the fight. He even endorsed Hillary Clinton. But his supporters could not shake off the sting of the DNC's betrayal, leaving a sour taste that many believe played a crucial role in Donald Trump's unexpected victory in the presidential election. Bernie Sanders continues to serve as a U.S. Senator from Vermont. He's been active in advocating for progressive policies and has played a prominent role in the Democratic Party.
Oh my God! That was so stupid! It was rigged! I know it's so rigged! Oh my God!
The party leader, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is doing a terrible disservice to the public.
Well, what we have to focus on now as Democrats is we recognize the process was rigged, and now it is up to Democrats to build a new process, a process that really works and works for everyone.